In February 2014, a group of 5 Finnish divers embarked on a perilous expedition into the icy depths of Plura Cave in Norway. The extreme conditions of this dive, with water temperatures just above freezing and a descent of over 400 feet, set the stage for an adventure fraught with danger. Among the divers were seasoned veterans who had faced numerous underwater challenges before, but none could have anticipated the cascade of events that would soon unfold. Plura Cave, Northern Europe's largest water-filled natural cave, has long been a beacon for explorers seeking the thrill of the unknown. Its dark passages and treacherous depths have a reputation for testing even the most experienced divers. As these 5 men ventured into its shadowy embrace, they were about to confront a series of gut-wrenching decisions that would leave their lives hanging in the balance. Viewer discretion is advised as we delve into the harrowing story of the Plura Cave disaster. Welcome to Diastrology. Kennan, a well-known Finnish diver, has a reputation forged through both triumph and tragedy. His diving career began in the tranquil waters of local quarries, but it wasn't long before he sought more challenging environments. In 2013, during a routine dive at a nearby quarry, Kai experienced his first underwater tragedy. Shortly after entering the water, he noticed his longtime friend was motionless, the regulator having fallen from his mouth. Despite Kai's immediate efforts to resuscitate him and call for emergency services, it was too late. The post-accident investigation revealed a simple yet fatal mistake. His friend had forgotten to open the oxygen valve on his rebreather. This incident left Kai devastated. In the wake of his friend's death, he vowed to give up cave diving, unable to reconcile his passion with the loss he had just endured. However, his resolve to stay away from the underwater world proved short-lived. The allure of diving, combined with the community and camaraderie he found among fellow divers, drew him back. Not long after his return, tragedy struck again. While exploring a shipwreck near Tand, Estonia, one of Kai's companions disappeared during the descent. Rescue divers were called in, but their efforts were in vain. Days later, Kai and 2 others discovered the lifeless body of their friend at a depth of 230 feet. Despite these back-to-back tragedies, Kai's passion for diving remained undiminished. He was determined to continue exploring, driven by a deep-seated need to push boundaries and uncover the mysteries hidden beneath the water's surface. Kai's persistence and dedication to cave diving never wavered. These experiences, harrowing as they were, seemed only to fuel his resolve. The Plura River, originating from the serene Lake Senate, winds its way through the breathtaking Plura Valley in Norway. This picturesque setting, with its lush greenery and dramatic landscapes, conceals a hidden world beneath its surface, a world that has captivated divers for decades. Plura Cave, carved by the relentless flow of water over millennia, holds the title of Northern Europe's largest water-filled natural cave. Its labyrinthine passages and vast chambers present a formidable challenge to even the most skilled divers. The cave's reputation is well-deserved. It is both a marvel of natural engineering and a perilous environment, known for testing the limits of human endurance and expertise. For years, Plura Cave remained largely unexplored, its depths too dangerous to navigate with the diving technology available at the time. However, advancements in diving gear over the past few decades have made it possible to venture further into this underwater labyrinth than ever before. Modern rebreathers, advanced underwater scooters, and robust trimix gas systems have opened up new frontiers for exploration, allowing divers to push deeper and stay submerged longer. In early 2014, 5 Finnish divers set their sights on Plura Cave for an ambitious expedition. Leading the group was Kennan, whose experience and resilience had earned him respect within the diving community. Joining him were Patrick, a 42-year-old fireman with a wealth of diving experience; Jari, a 40-year-old production manager known for his meticulous planning; Vesa, a 33-year-old electrical designer with a keen eye for detail; and Arid, a 34-year-old mechanical engineer renowned for his technical expertise. Each diver brought a unique set of skills and a wealth of experience, making them a formidable team. These divers were not novices; they were certified cave divers with numerous technical dives under their belts. Their qualifications and extensive training had prepared them for the challenges they would face in Plura Cave. In the years leading up to this expedition, they had achieved several record-setting dives. Notably, Kai and Jari had set an unofficial Finnish record by diving to a depth of 688 feet in the Halala quarry in eastern Finland. The previous fall, Kai and Patrick had successfully traversed the passage connecting Plura Cave's 2 known entrances, further boosting their confidence. Armed with state-of-the-art equipment and a wealth of experience, the team felt ready to tackle the formidable challenges of Plura Cave once more. The preparation for the dive into Plura Cave was meticulous and thorough, a testament to the experience and professionalism of the 5 Finnish divers. Their journey began long before they reached the icy waters of Norway. Months of planning went into ensuring every detail was accounted for, from equipment checks to emergency protocols. The stakes were high, and the team knew that any oversight could lead to disaster. Their road trip through Finland, Sweden, and Norway was an adventure in itself. As they traversed the Scandinavian landscape, the camaraderie among the divers grew stronger. The scenic drive was not without its challenges, however. The roads, covered in snow and ice, were treacherous, and at one point, Jari barely managed to regain control of their van as it skidded dangerously close to a ditch. The near accident served as a stark reminder of the perils they would soon face underwater. Despite the scare, the group shared nervous laughs and continued on their journey, their spirits undiminished. Upon arriving at Ford Brew Farm early on February 6th, the divers were greeted by the biting cold of a Norwegian winter morning. Before retiring for the night, they diligently carried their most sensitive gear into the garage to prevent it from freezing. The following morning, the temperature had dropped well below freezing, and the sun didn't rise until 9 a.m. The men decided to sleep in, ensuring they were well rested for the dive ahead. The team divided into 2 groups with staggered start times to minimize the risks. Patrick and Jari H. would enter the cave first, followed by Kai, Vesa, and Arid 2 hours later. This strategy would allow the sediment stirred up by the first group to settle, providing clearer visibility for the second team. More importantly, it ensured that one group could assist the other if something went wrong. The final preparations were meticulous. Patrick and Jari H. cut a hole in the ice-covered lake with a chainsaw, revealing water so clear they could see the rocky bottom 60 feet below. The divers were in high spirits, buoyed by top-notch conditions, ample rest, and full bellies from a hearty breakfast. They used underwater scooters to conserve energy and increase their range, and relied on advanced rebreathers that scrubbed carbon dioxide from exhaled air, recirculating a fresh mixture of oxygen, nitrogen, and helium. As they prepared to enter the frigid waters, each diver double-checked their equipment, knowing that every piece of gear had to function flawlessly. The rebreathers were particularly crucial, as they allowed for longer dives by recycling air, but they also required careful monitoring to prevent dangerous buildups of carbon dioxide. With their final checks complete, the divers were ready to begin their descent into the depths of Plura Cave, confident in their preparation and eager to face the challenges ahead. The dive began with a sense of anticipation and excitement. Patrick and Jari H., the first group, lowered themselves through the hole cut in the ice, immersing themselves into the clear, frigid waters of the Plura Cave system. The visibility was exceptional, with the rocky bottom visible nearly 60 feet below, a rare and fortunate condition for such an extreme environment. As they descended, the divers relied on their underwater scooters to navigate efficiently. These devices, resembling something out of a James Bond movie, allowed them to cover more ground while conserving energy. The scooters hummed softly, propelling them smoothly through the water. Equipped with closed-circuit rebreathers, the divers had an added layer of safety and efficiency. Unlike traditional open-circuit systems, these rebreathers recycled the exhaled air, removing carbon dioxide and adding fresh oxygen, nitrogen, and helium. This system not only extended their dive time, but also minimized the release of bubbles, reducing noise and conserving precious gas supplies. The technical aspects of the dive were not lost on the team. They were acutely aware of the risks associated with hypercapnia, a dangerous buildup of carbon dioxide in the blood, which could occur if the rebreather systems malfunctioned. Symptoms like dizziness, disorientation, and nausea could quickly turn deadly in the confined, dark passages of the cave. Constant monitoring of their equipment was crucial to prevent such hazards. As they gradually descended into the cave, the divers were struck by the remarkable surroundings. The walls of the cave, composed of porous limestone, were dotted with crags and crevices, creating a surreal, otherworldly landscape. Stalactites hung from the ceiling like ancient underwater icicles, while the soft clay floor below remained undisturbed, a silent witness to the cave's timeless existence. The initial journey was smooth, the divers' spirits high as they ventured deeper into this mysterious subterranean world. Their flashlights cut through the darkness, revealing the intricate beauty of the cave. The clarity of the water and the pristine condition of the cave's interior added to the allure, making the divers feel like they were exploring an untouched realm. As they moved further into the cave, the passageways grew narrower, and the ambient light from the entrance faded away, replaced by the beams of their flashlights guiding them through the silent, shadowy depths. The dive was progressing well, with the team's preparation and advanced equipment performing flawlessly. With each passing minute, they ventured further into the unknown, their confidence growing even as the environment around them grew more foreboding. As Patrick and Yari H descended further into the cave, the walls began to close in, and the passages became more intricate. They methodically attached guidelines to the anchor plates previously set up by Kai and Sammy. These guidelines were crucial, providing a lifeline back to the surface and ensuring they could navigate the complex cave system without getting lost. As they approached the narrowest part of the cave, a 90-degree turn presented the first significant challenge. Patrick went through first, maneuvering carefully to avoid dislodging the guideline. Once he was through, he turned to check on Yari, but the beam from Yari's headlamp had disappeared around the bend. This wasn't entirely unexpected, but it was concerning. Patrick waited, peering into the darkness, until he saw the light from Yari's headlamp again. However, something was wrong. The beam was moving erratically, a clear sign of distress. Patrick called out and motioned for Yari to come towards him, but Yari didn't move. Concerned, Patrick reversed his direction and swam back toward Yari. When he reached him, it was evident that Yari was in trouble. His scooter cord had become tangled in a crevice between two rocks, and he was struggling to free it. Yari's agitation was palpable. He signaled frantically to Patrick, who tried to help untangle the cord. After a few tense moments, Yari managed to pull the cord free with a mighty tug. He started inching forward, but his movements were erratic and increasingly desperate. Despite being free, Yari's anxiety didn't abate. He repeatedly signaled for Patrick to give him the open-circuit backup tank. Patrick handed Yari the regulator from the backup tank several times, but each time, Yari seemed unable to stabilize his breathing. The situation was deteriorating rapidly. In his agitated state, Yari's breathing became more labored, and at one point, his regulator slipped from his mouth. Patrick quickly handed him his own regulator and pressed the purge button, trying to help Yari clear the water from his mouthpiece. Despite Patrick's efforts, Yari inhaled a large quantity of the frigid cave water. His face contorted in pain and fear, and Patrick knew in that moment that there was nothing more he could do to save his friend. The realization hit him hard, but he had to stay focused. The depth and the complex nature of the cave left no room for error. Patrick faced a gut-wrenching dilemma. He looked at his dive computer, which indicated that his ascent would take over 400 minutes, nearly 7 hours, due to the extended decompression stops required. A few minutes earlier, the estimated ascent time had been just 120 minutes. Every minute spent at such depths added significantly to the total dive time. He couldn't simply swim to the surface without risking fatal decompression sickness, and with Yari's body blocking the passage, the path ahead was even more uncertain. Patrick had also given Yari some of his own precious oxygen, leaving him with an even more precarious air supply. With a heavy heart, Patrick knew he had to follow the dive computer's ascent schedule meticulously. He started to swim away, but the weight of what had just happened lingered. He couldn't help but worry about Kai, Vesa, and Arid, who were scheduled to follow their path. The thought of them encountering Yari's body and the ensuing chaos was almost too much to bear. The dive computer's readout, indicating a grueling 400-minute decompression time, filled him with horror. Every minute at such depths added exponentially to the total dive time, and the realization that he would have to adhere to this excruciatingly slow ascent schedule was almost too much to bear. As he rose through the dark, cold waters, his thoughts were consumed by the fate of the second group of divers. The image of Yari's lifeless body blocking the passage haunted him, and he feared what would happen when the others encountered it. Meanwhile, Kai, Vesa, and Arid were making their way into the cave. They were unaware of the tragedy that had just unfolded ahead of them. Their initial progress was steady and confident, buoyed by the clear water conditions and the knowledge that Patrick and Yari H had successfully navigated this route before. However, Vesa's decision to carry additional backup cylinders soon proved to be a significant hindrance. The extra weight and bulk made maneuvering through the narrow passages more difficult, causing delays and adding to the dive's complexity. As they descended deeper into the cave, the second group encountered increasingly challenging conditions. The narrow passages and the silt that had been stirred up by the first group reduced visibility and made navigation more treacherous. It was during one of these narrow sections that they discovered Yari's body. The shock of seeing their friend's lifeless form wedged in the passageway was devastating. Panic set in as they realized the severity of the situation. Visa, already struggling with the extra cylinders, found it nearly impossible to move past the obstruction. Kai, recognizing the immediate danger and the potential for further casualties, made a swift decision. He signaled for the group to turn around and head back the way they came. The risks associated with a rapid ascent were immense, but the alternative, remaining trapped in the cave with dwindling air supplies, was even more perilous. Kai knew that decompression sickness was a serious threat, but he also understood that their survival depended on making it out of the cave as quickly as possible. The ascent was a grueling test of endurance and mental fortitude. Each diver had to manage their buoyancy carefully, making controlled stops to minimize the risk of decompression sickness. The cold, dark water seemed to close in around them, and the weight of the tragedy they had witnessed added to their physical and emotional burden. Despite the fear and exhaustion, Kai, Vesa, and Arid pressed on, driven by the instinct to survive and the hope of making it back to the surface alive. As they ascended, the reality of their situation set in. The extended decompression times were unavoidable, and the physical strain was immense. They had to balance the need for a safe ascent with the urgency of their diminishing air supplies. The ascent from the depths of Plura Cave was a grueling ordeal for Patrick, Vasa, and Kai. Each diver faced their own battle against the clock, the pressure, and their dwindling air supplies. The slow, deliberate decompression stops were necessary to avoid the potentially fatal consequences of rapid ascent, but each pause also extended their time in the cold, dark waters. Patrick's ascent was fraught with anxiety. The horror of the extended decompression time weighed heavily on his mind, as did the fear for his friends who were yet to follow. His thoughts were a whirlwind of worry and regret, haunted by the image of Yari's lifeless body. The minutes felt like hours as he waited at each stop, his mind racing with the possibilities of what might happen next. Vasa, too, struggled mightily. His decision to carry additional backup cylinders had already caused significant delays, and now, with his air supply running low, each breath felt like a countdown. The physical strain was immense, and the cold water sapped his strength with every passing moment. The psychological toll was equally severe, as the realization of Yari's death and the perilous situation they were in pressed heavily on him. Kai, bringing up the rear, faced his own harrowing journey. The knowledge that he had to ascend despite the risk of decompression sickness was a constant source of dread. His thoughts oscillated between the need to survive and the overwhelming sense of loss for his friends. As he neared the surface, the familiar surroundings of the cave entrance brought a mix of relief and exhaustion. Patrick was the first to break through the surface. Emerging from the icy water, he was greeted by the frigid night air. Exhausted and emotionally drained, he sat by the cave entrance, his eyes scanning the darkness for any sign of Vasa. Minutes turned into agonizing hours before he finally saw the faint light from Vasa's headlamp piercing through the water. Vasa emerged, equally exhausted but alive. They embraced, both relieved to see each other. Meanwhile, Kai's final ascent was marked by a desperate struggle against time and the elements. As he reached the top of the cave, he realized the hole they had cut in the ice that morning had begun to freeze over. Using the last of his strength, he broke through the thin layer of ice and pushed himself out of the water. The shock of the cold air hit him as he crawled onto the ice and staggered towards the van. Collapsing by the vehicle, he barely had the energy to turn on the engine and switch on the headlights before falling to the ground. The survivors' reunion was a moment of mixed emotions. Relief at being alive was overshadowed by the grief of losing their friends. Patrick, Vasa, and Kai gathered their remaining strength to call the Norwegian authorities, alerting them to the tragedy that had unfolded.